Good morning. So, it's summer now, as many of you are well aware of, which for me means I'm way less busy and have all this time to spend it however I feel. But for some weird reason, I always seem to be stuck spending all my free time sitting on my laptop. With all this glorious time that I could be going on a hike, or reading a book, or smelling the green grass. But no, instead I'm inside, tippy-tapping away on my laptop. There's no way this can be healthy for my back, my wrists, or any part of me. But how can I fix this problem? This question kept rising up in the back of my mind, while my scoliosis and carpal tunnel syndrome grew by the day, until it finally hit me. I had just thought of a way that I could spend less time on my laptop. What if I make a game, but instead of drawing the game on my computer, I would draw all the assets in real life? I'm sure this would fix all of my problems. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. The first part of every game is, of course, the idea. You can't make a game without an idea, so you want to have at least something, big or small, to start expanding from. For this game, I knew I wanted to somehow incorporate the hand-drawn aspect into the gameplay side of things, but that's a lot easier said than done. With a ton of thought, I finally had a brilliant idea. But why tell you this idea when I can show you? So here's my main idea for the game. So I want to have a tower defense game between you. You're going to try and protect your castle from the fire. The fire's going to want to burn down your paper kingdom. But then the main way to defend yourself is going to be water-based defenses. So you're going to get your water from sources like this well, or maybe later an upgraded version could be this pump jack. And then you'll have to find ways to put out the fire using stuff like hoses, geysers, sprinklers, rain clouds. So that's my rough idea, so let's get working on it. I was truly amped up for this project. I had a million ideas circulating around in my head and was ready to get them realized. So after I scribbled out a couple more ideas, it was finally time to start on the game side of the project. I took a picture of the piece of paper I had scribbled all of my ideas onto and sent that off to my laptop. From there, I then took the full sheet into Photoshop and started cutting out the individual pieces of art. For the final game, I'll color and cut out all the art individually, but for now, I just wanted something temporary in the game that I can start working on. From there, I opened Unity and started setting everything up. I put the background in and then placed some of my other art on top of it just to see how it looked. Don't worry, I'll retake the pictures so all the colors match. From there, I was even more excited, so I jumped into the game's first system, this being the resource system. I decided that the main currency of the game was going to be water droplets, so time to add the well in. Every couple of seconds, the well would pop up a little water icon that you could click to collect the water, very reminiscent of Clash of Clans. This was super easy to get going, and I was loving the aesthetic of the game so far. Next in line, I wanted to start setting up the fire. It would in fact be the main enemy in the game, so I should start setting up pretty early. But how is the fire going to work? I thought up a million different ways to get it functioning. I thought of procedural generation, or possibly using different noise maps so it would generate naturally, Perlin noise, big sciencey words. But then I remembered. I'm a dummy poo-poo dumb smell poopy pants who struggled to even learn how to program in the first place. So let's dumb down our expectations. I determined that the fire in every single game would start from a single point. This point, once it had charged up enough fire, could then spread to another location. From here, only the main fire could keep charging up more fire, but instead of just being able to spawn new fires, it could spread its charge down the line of already spawned in fires, and once they have enough charge, they can spawn little fires of their own. Every time a fire is spawned, it has a small chance to either help generate a bit of fire or be able to branch off in its own new line. So given enough time, it would make an organic web of spreading fire. Okay, now let's make it. Sounds simple, right? Well, that's what I always think before actually starting. But things don't always turn out how they seem. Technically, it wasn't that hard to get the main features in the code, but tuning them was another story. I started tuning the fire at around 4 in the afternoon. I wasn't done till around 9. We'll just leave it at that. After way too long, the fire was pretty close to what I was going for. It would spread and send tendrils out, but then still clump near where it had already been established. Once I finished coloring in some of the art and added a particle system or two, I think that it's going to look pretty awesome. Now that the fire was spreading, it needed something to consume. I needed something for the fire to be able to burn down, and why not start with one of the simplest towers, the puddle. The puddle had a very basic function of just blocking the path of a fire for a short time. It's basically nothing more than a glorified health bar and my game's equivalent of a walnut from Plants vs. Zombies. This was pretty straightforward. The puddle had a set amount of health, and if it was touching any fire, then its health would start to tick down based on how many different pieces of fire it was touching. This was pretty good, but at that time the water was doing nothing to the fire. The fire could spread over the top of it like it didn't exist, because quite frankly, according to the code, it didn't. But don't worry, this was an easy fix. I added in pretty much the exact same system that the puddle used, but instead of draining from the arbitrary health pool, it drained from the fire charge of that individual fire node, which meant that while the fire was burning something, it probably wouldn't have enough fire charge to spread out even more, and if it had enough fire behind it charging it up, then it wouldn't burn out. With that, I had the health system for both the fire and the water-based units. But now let's give the water a way to fight back. The main backbone for the water towers was the simple turret. Once the fire gets within a certain range, then the turret will shoot out a ball of water and try and extinguish the invading fire. This was pretty uncomplicated to get all implemented. I first started out with the bullet that the turret would be able to launch out. Easy peasy. When it hits the fire, then it would deal some damage. Doesn't need much explaining. With the bullet done, it was time to make the turret that would eventually spawn it in. This was also pretty straightforward. It just needed to find the closest fire, and then spawn a bullet in that direction, and bam, turret done. This was most of the main features already into the game. The fire was spreading, the turrets were fighting, both had a way to die. But there still wasn't a game loop. I had all the features on their own, but now I needed to tie it all together. I needed a way to buy and place towers. I already had the currency system somewhat set up, but that's still a way off from a shop. So let's get going with that. First up, I put how much water you had at the top of the screen, so that you'd know how much water you'd actually have saved up. And that was pretty straightforward to get worked out and updated nicely with the well. Next, I started making the base for the shop. This was going to be a list of items on the side of the screen that would show the tower and its price. After that, I made a base for the shop item that would automatically be filled with the right contents and price. From there, I set it up so that it could handle any amount of shop items and space them out dynamically. With this, I had the buttons set themselves up automatically, and there's your shop. In the end, it was actually pretty easy to get working, and now I could start polishing out a bit. I started adding some fancy things with transparency and different colors and all that jazz. Randomly, the water icon on the well was randomly turning transparent, but then it also randomly fixed itself without me doing anything, so that happened. At this point, the game was playable. It wasn't very good, but still technically playable, and that's what matters. From there, I needed a couple more stuff to make this technically function as a game before I start making it look and feel nice. I made all of the menus and screens that I would need for this game. I made it so when your castle was destroyed, then it would show a death screen. Okay, so let's just move the fire up here. Let's go press play. Let's see how it works. Okay, the fire's spreading out. No, yeah, turn around, start going in the right direction. You got this, little buddy. Okay, any day now. Okay, now it's starting to burn the castle. That's good. Okay. Any second now. Okay, it's working great. Awesome. For the title screen of the game, I took a picture of my notebook's cover, which I thought was a fun thematic touch. Now that the broad strokes were down, I started working on the smaller details and, most importantly, bug fixes. Like a lot of bug fixes. But in no time at all these smaller things were wrapped up and I was feeling quite happy. Things were really starting to shape and take their place quite well. After that, I realized that I still had a sprite or two that I hadn't added into the game from my first sprite sheet. Time to fix that. From that sheet, the first one I chose was the rain cloud. This tower was different from all the others up until this point. Unlike almost everything else, you could place this anywhere on the notebook, even if there was another tower there, or even a fire itself. Once placed, it would start putting out the fire underneath it for a couple of seconds before disappearing. This was meant to be used if you were in a bit of a pickle and needed to desperately defend a tower or stop the spread of the fire. Anyways, let's get this in the game. This came in quite quickly and functions just perfectly. From the code side, it's essentially just a bullet that you can place. Next in the queue was another cloud and puddle sprite to add in. These were just the same as their other sprited counterparts, so the biggest change was literally just in the appearance. I could now add these to the shop and the game was feeling much fuller. Now there were only 2 lonely sprites left. And these sprites didn't have to have any towers built after them. They were just 2 different fire sprites. Once I added these in, it would do a ton to break up the repetitiveness of the existing fire sprites. Each fire node, once it was spawned, would randomly choose one of these sprites and it instantly looked better. So now I have all the sprites and main features of the game in. So let's playtest it. Okay, so that was actually really fun. There were obviously a bunch of balance issues, but it felt really good and I was absolutely over the moon about it. There was a complete game loop and you could definitely make your way through the game quite well and with some good challenges and a relatively good power curve. Well, this game has also kind of exploded in original scope as a ton more ideas just keep coming to me. But that also means that this script is getting way too long. So I'm going to split this project into 2 videos. Thanks to all of you who are still watching this long. I'm not really sure if this idea is helping me get off my computer that well, but we'll see in the end. Make sure you don't miss the second part of this video coming soon, and possibly subscribe. Recently I hit funny internet number subscribers, so thanks to everyone for that. If you like this video, then like and subscribe, or don't. I'm not your mom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.